Hello there. It's good to have you here tonight. You know, life has a funny way of surprising us, doesn't it? Just when you think your days are settled into a quiet, predictable rhythm, something happens or someone appears that shakes the dust off your soul. It's those small, unexpected encounters that remind us we're still alive, still capable of feeling deeply. Before I dive into the story, I'd love to know where you're listening from. Are you in a bustling city like New York or Chicago, or tucked away in a quiet town where the stars are the only streetlights? Let me know in the comments. It's always comforting to see how connected we all are, no matter the distance. And if you enjoy stories about the hidden corners of the human heart, please take a moment to subscribe and hit that like button. It truly helps me keep sharing these little confessions with you. Now, let me take you back to a Saturday in late October. The air had that crisp, biting edge to it, the kind that smells of damp leaves and wood smoke. It had rained all morning, a relentless gray drizzle that turned the world soft and blurry. But by the afternoon, the clouds had broken just enough to let a pale, watery sunlight filter through. I was in the garage, a place that had become my sanctuary over the last few years. My husband, Thomas, passed away 5 years ago, and my daughter, Clara, was living her own busy life in the city, so the house often felt too large, too full of echoes. The garage, however, was different. It was cluttered, yes, but it was filled with tangible things: old tools, forgotten boxes, the smell of oil and aged wood. It felt grounded. I was humming a tune I couldn't quite place, searching for a vintage ceramic vase I intended to give to a friend. I was knee-deep in a box of old holiday decorations when I heard the side door creak open. I froze, my heart giving a little jump. I wasn't expecting anyone, Mrs. Hayes. A voice called out, tentative and low. I turned around, clutching a tangle of silver tinsel. Standing there, framed by the afternoon light, was Julian. He was Clara's boyfriend or ex-boyfriend. I wasn't entirely sure of their status that week. They had a volatile relationship, full of passionate arguments and dramatic reunions. Julian was 24, a thoughtful young man with messy dark hair and eyes that always seemed a little too serious for his age. He looked out of place in my dusty garage, wearing a damp denim jacket and holding a set of keys that I recognized as Clara's spare set. "Julian," I said, letting out a breath. "You nearly gave me a heart attack. What on earth are you doing here?" He shifted his weight, looking uncomfortable. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Hayes. I didn't mean to scare you. I was looking for Clara. She isn't answering her phone, and I thought maybe she came here to cool off." We had a bit of a disagreement. I sighed, brushing the dust from my hands onto my jeans. "She isn't here, Julian. I think she went to stay with her friend Sarah for the weekend. She mentioned needing some space." His shoulders slumped, and for a moment, he looked incredibly young and defeated. "Right, space, of course." He turned to leave, but then paused, looking around the garage. "What are you doing in here, anyway?" "It's freezing." "Looking for a ghost," I joked weakly, gesturing to the boxes. "Or a vase. Whichever I find first." He cracked a small smile. It changed his face, softening the sharp angles of his jaw. "Need some help?" "I'm pretty good at finding lost things." I hesitated. It felt strange to have him there, in my personal space, amidst the detritus of my past. But the house was quiet, and honestly, I was lonely. The kind of lonely that settles in your bones like a chill. "Actually," I said, "if you're tall enough to reach that top shelf, you're hired." He stepped inside, closing the door behind him against the wind. The atmosphere in the garage shifted instantly. It became smaller, more intimate. The smell of the rain clinging to his jacket mixed with the scent of old cardboard and dust. He walked over to where I was standing, and for the first time, I really looked at him. Not as my daughter's boyfriend, but as a person. He had a smudge of grease on his cheek and his hands were rough, the hands of someone who worked for a living. He was a carpenter's apprentice, I recalled. "So, what are we looking for?" he asked, looking up at the high shelf. "A blue ceramic vase. It has a chip on the rim. Thomas bought it for me on our 10th anniversary. I thought I'd lost it, but I have a feeling it's up there." He nodded and reached up effortlessly, his shirt lifting slightly to reveal the waistband of his jeans. I whipped away, feeling a sudden, unexpected flush of heat. It wasn't attraction, at least. I told myself it wasn't. It was just an awareness of his vitality, his presence, in a life that had become very still. He pulled down a box and set it on the workbench. "This one?" We opened it together. It wasn't the vase. It was a box of old vinyl records. Thomas's collection. Jazz, mostly. Coltrane, Davis, Ellington. "Wow," Julian said, his eyes lighting up. "Original pressings? These are incredible." "Thomas loved his jazz," I said softly, touching the worn cardboard sleeve of Kind of Blue. "He used to play these on Sunday mornings while he made pancakes." It drove Clara crazy. She wanted to listen to pop music. "She has terrible taste in music," Julian laughed, picking up a record. "No offense to your daughter." "None taken," I chuckled. "She gets that from me, I'm afraid." Thomas was the one with the refined ear. We stood there for a while, flipping through the records. Julian knew a lot about them. He spoke with passion about the chord progressions, the history of the artist, the way the music made you feel things you didn't have words for. As he talked, I watched him. His enthusiasm was contagious. It made the dusty garage feel brighter, warmer. "Do you have a record player?" he asked suddenly. "In the attic, I think. It hasn't been used in years. It probably doesn't even work." "Let's find out," he said, a mischievous glint in his eyes. Before I could protest, we were on a mission. We found the turntable buried under a pile of old blankets. Julian tinkered with it for a few minutes, checking the needle, adjusting the belt. He had nimble fingers, confident and capable. I watched him work, feeling a strange sense of peace wash over me. It was nice to have someone take charge, to fix things that were broken. When he finally plugged it in and set the needle down on Blue Train, the crackle of static was followed by the smooth, mournful sound of the saxophone filling the garage. It was like a time machine. Suddenly, I wasn't a widow in her 50s standing in a cold garage. I was a young wife dancing in the kitchen with my husband, laughing as the batter burned. Tears pricked my eyes. I turned away, pretending to rearrange a stack of magazines. "Mrs. Hayes." Julian's voice was soft right behind me. "I'm fine," I choked out. "Just memories. They sneak up on you." "I know," he said. "My mom died when I was 16. Sometimes a song comes on the radio and I have to pull the car over." I turned to face him. His eyes were filled with a deep, ancient sadness that mirrored my own. In that moment, the age difference between us evaporated. We were just two people who knew what it was like to have a hole in the world where a person used to be. "I'm sorry, Julian. I didn't know." "It's okay. We don't talk about it much." "Clara doesn't like deep conversations." He gave a wry smile. "She's young," I defended automatically. "She hasn't had to learn how to carry grief yet." "Maybe," he said. "Or maybe some people just feel things differently." He looked at me then, really looked at me. His gaze was intense, stripping away the layers of polite social distance. "You feel things deeply, don't you, Evelyn?" My first name sounded strange on his lips. Dangerous, but not wrong. "I suppose I do," I whispered. The music swelled around us. We stood there in the dim light of the garage, surrounded by ghosts and dust. The tension in the air changed. It wasn't sexual exactly. It was more profound. It was a recognition, a resonance, Do you want to dance? He asked. I laughed, a nervous, startled sound. Oh, Julian. I haven't danced in years, and certainly not in a garage. Best place for it, he said, extending his hand. No one watching, just the music. I hesitated. Every instinct told me to say no, to send him home, to go back to being the sensible mother and widow. But my hand moved of its own accord, placing itself in his. His palm was warm and rough. He pulled me close, but not too close. Just enough to lead. We swayed to the rhythm of the jazz, moving slowly in the small space between the workbench and the parked car. I rested my head on his shoulder for a fleeting second, smelling the rain and the soap he used. It felt safe. It felt like coming home to a house I didn't know I still owned. We danced until the song ended. When the needle clicked and the silence returned, we didn't pull apart immediately. We stood there, hands still clasped, breathing in the quiet. Thank you, I said softly, stepping back. I needed that. Me too, he said. His voice was husky. He cleared his throat and stepped back, breaking the spell. I should probably go. Clara might call. Yes, I said, smoothing my shirt. You should go. He walked to the door, then paused. Can I come back to help you finish organizing? There's a lot of heavy stuff in here. I looked at him, at the hope and the loneliness in his eyes. I knew I should say no. I knew it was complicated, but I also knew that for the first time in 5 years, I didn't want to be alone in the silence. Tuesday, I said. I'm free on Tuesday. He smiled, a genuine, blinding smile. Tuesday. I'll bring coffee. After he left, I sat on an old stool in the garage for a long time. The record player was silent, but the music was still playing in my head. I felt a shifting inside me, a cracking of the ice that had encased my heart. I wasn't sure where this was going or what it meant, but I knew one thing. I felt awake that Tuesday came with a bright, crisp sky. I spent the morning nervously tidying the house, even though we would be in the garage. I caught myself checking my reflection in the hallway mirror more than once. Who was I doing this for? Was it just for the company? Or was it something else? I pushed the thought away. It was innocent. He was a young man helping an older woman. That was all. When Julian arrived, he brought 2 large coffees and a bag of cinnamon rolls. Fuel, he announced, setting them on the workbench. We worked for hours. He moved the heavy boxes I hadn't been able to budge. We sorted through old gardening tools, rusty bicycles, and crates of books. The conversation flowed easily. We talked about architecture. He wanted to build sustainable homes one day. We talked about art I used to paint before life got in the way. Why did you stop? He asked, wiping grease from a wrench. I don't know, I admitted. Life just happened. Marriage, motherhood, work. Art felt selfish. Creating something beautiful is never selfish, he said firmly. You should start again. Paint this garage. Paint the way the light hits those dust motes. I laughed. Maybe. Around noon, it started to rain again. A heavy, pounding rain that drummed against the metal roof of the garage. It was loud and encompassing, isolating us from the rest of the world. We took a break, sitting on the tailgate of my station wagon, drinking the now lukewarm coffee. So, I said, venturing into dangerous territory, how are things with Clara? He sighed, looking down at his boots. Complicated. We single quotes different. She wants a life that's fast and loud. I just want to build something real. Something that lasts. She's still finding herself, Julian. Give her time. I know. But sometimes I feel like I'm waiting for a train that's never going to arrive. He looked at me sideways. Did you and Thomas ever feel like that? Oh, yes, I smiled. In the beginning, we were opposites. He was the dreamer, I was the realist. But we learned to dance to the same rhythm. It takes work. I'm not afraid of work, he said. I'm just afraid of working on the wrong thing. His vulnerability was disarming. I felt a fierce urge to comfort him, to tell him that he was enough, that he was special. I reached out and squeezed his hand. You're a good man, Julian. Whatever happens, you'll be okay. He looked at my hand on his, then up at my eyes. The air in the garage grew thick again. The sound of the rain faded into the background. Evelyn, he said quietly, I don't think I'm coming here just for the coffee. My heart hammered against my ribs. I know. He leaned in slowly, giving me every chance to pull away. But I didn't. I stayed frozen, caught between fear and a desperate aching need to be touched. His lips brushed my cheek, soft and tentative. It wasn't a lover's kiss. It was a question, a reverence. I closed my eyes, letting the sensation wash over me. For a moment, just a moment, I allowed myself to feel the warmth of another human being, the promise of connection. Then reality crashed back in. I pulled back gently. Julian, we can't. He nodded immediately, backing away. I know, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have. No, I said, my voice shaking. Don't apologize. It was nice. But you're with Clara, and I'm me. You're amazing, he said fiercely. Don't sell yourself short. He stood up, running a hand through his hair. I should go before I make this worse. Julian, I called out as he reached the door. He turned. Thank you for seeing me. He gave me a sad, beautiful smile. It's hard not to. He left, running through the rain to his truck. I watched him go, feeling a mix of relief and profound loss. The next few weeks were a blur. I didn't see Julian. Clara called to say they had officially broken up. He's just too serious, Mom, she complained. He wants to settle down and I want to travel. It wasn't working. I listened, making the appropriate soothing noises, all while feeling a secret, guilty pang of sympathy for him. And if I was honest, a tiny spark of hope dot I started painting again. I set up an easel in the garage. I painted the way the light hit the dust motes, just like he suggested. I painted the old record player. I painted the feeling of the rain. It felt like an exorcism. I was releasing the ghost of the woman I used to be and welcoming the woman I was becoming. One evening in November, the doorbell rang. It was late, past 8. I opened the door to find Julian standing on the porch. He looked different. Older, maybe. He had a beard starting and he looked tired. Hi, he said. Hi, I replied, holding the door tight. I know it's late, and I know we shouldn't, but I saw the light on in the garage earlier and He trailed off. I just wanted to see if you found that vase. I smiled, opening the door wider. I didn't find the vase, but I found something else. What? Come in. I'll show you. I led him to the garage. On the easel was a painting. It was abstract, a swirl of blues and grays and golds. It was the garage in the rain. It was the jazz music. It was a stop. He stood in front of it for a long time, silent. You did this? He whispered, double quotes, yes. He turned to me, his eyes shining. It's beautiful, Evelyn. You're beautiful. This time, when he stepped closer, there was no hesitation, no guilt. Clara was gone, moved on to her next adventure. Thomas was a cherished memory, but he was the past. This moment, this connection was the present. He took my face in his hands, his thumbs tracing my cheekbones. I can't stop thinking about you, he confessed. About how easy it is to be with you. About how you listen. About how you make me feel like I can be myself. I feel the same way, I whispered. He kissed me then. Really kiss me. It wasn't the tentative brush on the cheek. It was a kiss full of hunger and relief and pent-up longing. It tasted of rain and coffee and second chances. We didn't sleep together that night. We just sat on the floor of the garage, talking until dawn. We talked about the age gap, about the judgment we would face, about the complications. We laid it all out on the table. I don't care what people think, Julian said as the sun began to creep through the windows. I've spent my whole life trying to please everyone else. For once, I want to choose what makes me happy. And am I what makes you happy? I asked, feeling a vulnerability so sharp it hurt. You have no idea, he said, kissing my hand. We took it slow. We kept it quiet for a long time. When we finally told Clara, she was shocked, then angry, then surprisingly indifferent. Whatever, she said. As long as you're happy, Mom. It's weird, but you do you. It wasn't the blessing of the century, but it was enough. People talked, of course. In a small town, they always do. They whispered about the widow and the younger man. They gave us looks in the grocery store. But honestly, I didn't care. For the first time in years, I was living my life for me. Julian helped me turn the garage into a proper art studio. He built custom shelves, installed better lighting. He encouraged me to submit my work to a local gallery. To my shock, they accepted 3 pieces. On the opening night of the exhibition, I stood in the gallery wearing a dress I hadn't worn in a decade, feeling terrified. Julian was by my side, holding my hand, looking proud enough to burst. You did it, he whispered in my ear. We did it, I corrected, looking at him. I realized that he hadn't just found me in the garage that day. He had found the parts of me I had hidden away. He had dusted them off, held them up to the light, and told me they were valuable. Our relationship wasn't perfect. We had generational differences. He liked to text. I liked to call. He listened to podcasts. I read books. But we met in the middle. We learned from each other. He kept me young, and I gave him roots. One rainy afternoon, a year later, we were back in the garage, now the studio. The record player was spinning kind of blue. I was painting, and Julian was sketching plans for a house he wanted to build. You know, he said, not looking up from his sketchbook. I never did find that blue vase. I stopped painting, smiling at the canvas. I did, a few months ago. It was in the attic all along. Really? Where is it? I gave it to the charity shop, I said, turning to look at him. He looked shocked. Why? I thought it was special. It was, I said, walking over to him and wrapping my arms around his neck. It was a memory of the past. But I don't need to hold on to the past so tightly anymore. I have everything I need right here. He smiled, pulling me down into his lap. You're cheesy, Mrs. Hayes. I know, Mr. Bennett. Now kiss me. And he did that, so that's what happened when my daughter's boyfriend found me in the garage. It wasn't a scandal. It wasn't a midlife crisis. It was a resurrection. It was a reminder that love doesn't check birth dates. It doesn't follow a script. It just shows up, usually when you're looking for something else entirely, and asks if you want to dance out to anyone listening tonight who feels like their best days are behind them, who feels invisible or forgotten. Please keep your door open. Keep your heart open. You never know who might walk in out of the rain and change everything. Life is full of second acts. Don't be afraid to take the stage. Thank you for listening. If this story touched you, let me know. I read every comment. And remember, sometimes the things we lose are just making space for the things we are meant to find. Good night, everyone. Sleep well.